I'm the oldest of 11. And so, yeah, I have the boys and girls girls. So my wife is always like this. Too loud.
He's so talented. Yeah, you're working with kids.
Yeah, it's good to have the voice of God.
Sufficient volume to reach the back of the room.
Yeah.
But know when to lower it so that your ears perk up and they.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I can stop the room with just a look, because they know me good enough. And other times, I'll be like, hey,
One syllable.
hey, yeah. That's,
That's good.
Okay, now we're on the internet.
thanks for bringing this up.
Hey, Mary. Sorry. Maybe confusing.
I like. Okay, I see it. Thanks. Lots of what?
Yeah.
Oh, that was hard.
Great. to meet you.
The sweetie needs to marry.
Okay.
Company.
You, John.
Yeah.
For you
Great.
guys. Good. You never know.
You swung right into the right place. Yeah. So I guess Keith is doing better. That's all right.
I didn't read them all.
Might be just the best.
Yeah. About a week. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Norma said, she was at the garden party over at Hamel House on Sunday.
Yeah.
Got them, food and stuff, and we said, do you want watermelon? Can you see my husband eating watermelon? Did you really see that? What, I had no idea, I mean, some people love it. So, but she came back over and she said, he ate all of this and all of this and all of that. I said, it's good, we're good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's a horrible thing.
It's a hard, I mean, he's not used to just staying off of his feet. He's used to moving around and puttering.
Pestering everybody.
So,
Former board member. These guys always put me next to him.
that was really sick.
Really?
They both love old cars, they both love machinery.
It's bad.
See, some of that is just great to me.
Yeah, they're like
We didn't have a
twin
car
sons
there
of different
from
mothers.
17 and 5. Fairly.
Wow, nice.
Had it for a month before it got there. My first 3 cars were total dump drivers.
You grew up in
South Dakota.
South Dakota, well.
Drinking is a big thing.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Well, there's a-
Oh, that's what they do. There's a bird somewhere.
Yeah.
Is this working better now?
No,
We're still gonna have to speak.
the guy is going to come on Thursday. And then if he can't help get it situated, I think he will, but then I'm gonna put it in the budget next year for one of those owl things. I went and checked it out at the Heritage Center. Looked really cool.
Although, it directs its microphone.
It's the camera, the mic,
Yeah, for a while.
and the speaker all in one.
And was it
I think it's $1,000,
live?
More than
right?
ish.
Is this in
all
your
relative.
way,
No,
Hi.
wait.
Hi, guys. How's everybody?
You're all doing excellent. Yourself?
It's a little warm in there.
It's a little.
Hi, John. How's Dr. Holmes?
I'm supposed to, in a few weeks, I'm doing a break.
Yeah.
Just doing that. You can go fast, man.
I know, I should, I was going to, and then we went out of town and I just, he's up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will,
You see the trout move around.
I'll go to pasture.
I go back to work and.
Hey, I'm taking a survey, do you know a good car body guy?
Oh, here's a good part.
In your dreams. For a 70-year-old.
Excellent Moses.
You're being recorded, so.
Well, let me,
Yeah,
It's,
how good, what are you doing?
We bought a
It takes a while to read, so.
Nissan one bed little pickup truck.
I'm not supposed to go out there with the.
No. It's 83, it's the tiny one
Oh,
to pull behind the RV, but it needs 5 door and I'm seeing the point from it.
Really?
Yeah. But,
she doesn't even like me to come into her cubicle.
anyway, if you know somebody,
They may not be even.
if you think of it,
She don't want to be seen with me.
They both involve dogs. There's a common.
yeah.
those guys got yards of
Not really.
I'll see if there's still is on.
It's her in person. Oh my God, this is what you look like in person.
Okay.
Depth perception.
I
I know,
know.
my wife says that sometimes.
I haven't been a good attendee lately, so.
Cool.
I usually have to get my wife to call.
What color you gonna paint?
Jump over the rail.
Right.
Black,
You're all.
black. Either that or Ned will do the actual body work and then we'll get it wrapped
Yeah.
and matched.
What's, oh. Discuss the.
We slayed that dragon.
Not tonight.
Did you get your,
Oh, yes, no, I've got a new sport, we were going to blog online.
Exactly what that's like.
All right, yeah, no,
So, there, you can't have sex color because of the laws, they say that, you know, if it's, even if this is not.
Oh, I don't know.
Ours.
I thought you were.
Right.
and they will send a car flight.
I don't know.
But they will send a car.
sounds like their first.
No, it wasn't California.
What's the message?
I agree.
You know how I'm getting with your this week.
We have no over there.
It's Larry Mason, because Jeff, Gosser. Just has a plethora of sequoias. It just happens to have an 03 that you set a part out, right? And it's a tree cover, perfect. And you know, Larry's the one, I gotta remind you that, when my bear, my car was broken into by a bear. Larry's the one that replaced the whole.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why.
Did you get my message? I got you about the question.
Yeah.
It is monthly.
Of course it is. No, why am I not surprised?
For help and dental.
Yeah. Well, why not? Right, you would have got, well, it's an experiment.
Or you just wrap it.
Oh, there's an extra chair there.
Yeah, that's how I started out.
Now you talk.
Remember Menon? They tech.
It's 6:01, as soon as Rick gets over here.
Oh, no, I don't think, I never got one like that. I tried texting him and he was in a meeting. I
Rick?
You don't have that.
All right, everybody.
It's in the,
It
it's in the, watch your file.
is 6:02 PM on August 9th, 2022. I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen in the town of Georgetown to order. Let's start with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call. I'm Lynn Kelsey, police judge. Rob Connell.
Here.
Deanne Powell.
Here.
And John Jennings.
I'm here.
Paul Hinton.
Here.
Mary Smith. Here. And Mitch Sparrow.
Yeah.
Thank you. And agenda approval. Does anybody have anything they want to add to the agenda? Delete? Meeting location?
Oh, yeah, right.
Well,
And we need to speak up, everybody, so everybody can hear on the Zoom, especially you.
That was my
Speak
segue.
up.
That was my segue.
yes.
Just saying.
Maybe a meeting, logistics.
We have a wonderful park system, since I'm on the Parks and Rec system, I thought maybe I'd be happy to host a meeting in one of our main parks. Should we talk about it at that time?
Okay. Anything else? All right, we'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Awesome.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor, say aye. And you are muted still. Hello? Did we lose you?
She is muted.
Yeah.
Ground control to make sure.
Hello, Deanne, are you there? Hello?
Flash.
Hi there.
Okay.
Why don't you turn on your video so we can see you?
It drawing too much power. I've noticed that with the video off, I can hear slightly better, but not much.
Okay, well, then maybe, so we just voted on the agenda.
Oh, sorry about that. Approve or
Vote to approve?
yes.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Do we have anybody?
Not as far as I know, no.
Okay. Moving on. We have the payables. Ones we have before us tonight are from July 22nd through August 4th, 2022. Any questions or comments on the payroll?
Make a motion to approve the payables that are dated 7/22/2022 to 8/4/2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the payables as presented. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? I didn't hear your votes.
She's muted.
I know.
I said aye,
What?
aye, yes.
To approve? Okay, you might wanna leave you unmuted for a while, because we're gonna zip right through these tables and minutes and. So, thank you. Next we're taking one at a time, the minutes from our regular meeting of, July 12th, 2022. Any additions or corrections? I had a question for you, Jerry, actually. On page 3, in the proposed lodging tax paragraph, third sentence from the third line from the bottom. I thought you had said that the occupation tax had to be a flat fee, not a percentage.
And I said, so it can't be a percentage of gross revenue. Oh, but instead of percentage of nightly room rental? Is that the question?
I think probably the better way to say it would be, a charge per nightly room rental.
Okay,
Cover it.
it's in charge.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
And so I'm taking out,
that second percentage. And then just changing it to charge.
but instead of percentage, okay.
Correct.
But
All right.
instead
A nightly charge room rental, okay.
a charge
Per,
per nightly room rental. So pick out the percentage of that. And so
Per-
charge per.
Okay.
that was all I had. Anybody else? Would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of July, I keep saying January, July 12th, 2022 as corrected.
And July 26th.
We're taking them one at a time.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I'll make that motion.
Been moved and seconded to approve these minutes as corrected. All in favor say aye.
Deanne?
I said aye,
Okay, we didn't hear you. Thank you.
Any opposed? Now we have the minutes from the July 26th, 2022 meeting. Any additions, corrections?
Something, not that it's bad, but to make that motion to adjourn.
What is it? I can't even hear you.
So you need to speak up, Mary, because Jen.
So just on the adjournment, that it was Selectman Jennings that did the motion to adjourn.
And, oh, Jennings made it instead of you to adjourn? Okay,
I think that was bad.
Yeah.
It probably. was.
alrighty then.
Okay.
I think from the-
Any other corrections?
Yes.
Lowry.
Yes, I made that motion to move.
Second it.
As corrected.
Oh, okay.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded.
We're gonna get you a voice.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the July 26th, 2022 meeting as corrected. All in favor say aye.
aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion passes. agenda item number 1 is an encroachment license agreement. And this is for an address of 1416 Argentine Street.
Those were additions after the agenda was put out.
Want to present staff? Okay, thank you.
So, selecting what we have tonight is an encroachment license, from 1416 Argentine. This is the former Roundabout Burger place. They are in the process of wanting to sell the property to the owner to do something similar. But what has come to light is that the area that they currently park in is actually a right of way of the town. And so in order to give them some assurance that they can continue to have this privilege is to do an encroachment license agreement with them. It gives them an opportunity to say, yes, we can continue to allow you to use this, but it can be revoked for future use if the town decides to do a sidewalk or something like that. Currently, the town does not have anything on the agenda or even, the near future of doing something like that. But we are doing on the other side, going north, around the we are doing the sidewalk all the way from 15th to 22nd Street Bridge. So, but at this point, we are not doing anything, but in order to help them secure this opportunity to try to sell this for future, another establishment, they are wanting to do a license to help them. Yes, questions?
I just wanted to ask you, this doesn't have any ramifications with regard to transfer of ownership to the tenant, just because they've had that right away for their so long.
No, there's no grandfather case in this situation, and so with town-owned property, that there's a state statute that protects us from anything after the time of grandfather. So that's not the situation. It's just more of trying to give them a soft, equal sense to allow them to participate in this. And Jerry, if you wanted to clarify what you're.
Sorry, you don't have any kind of evidence for the arts. So, oh, got it.
And all the applicant, Tina Ozy, is on Zoom. You have questions for her?
20-day notice.
20 days.
I have a question for one of our panel. How does this impact the sidewalk and rock work down there? Does that stay the same or does it have to be rearranged so that they have more parking area?
I think it stays the same, we're not doing anything, if they're gonna do, they would do improvements. And if we were to revoke that, then they would have to bring it back to the, current condition that it is, or something that would be passed on.
No, whatever you're saying is too blurry, sorry.
Well,
Can you hear me now, Dan?
Say,
Can you hear me?
say something.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but when you speak, when the words are put together in a normal speech pattern, they kind of echo and run together.
and that, Deanne, is why we suggested that you come to the meeting because we're having
I
technical
told
difficulties.
you, I have been sick for too long to come in and be exposed. I don't feel safe coming in person yet.
Then
Okay.
she's not gonna be able to.
Let me try and explain. So what exists now is some parking spaces that encroach into the right of way. This is merely establishing their legal right to go ahead and continue to use those as parking for their business for that building. And nothing changes in what's on the ground. Does that make sense? And could you understand? what I'm
That's perfect. That's exactly what I was concerned about, that this was different than what it was when, say, Roundabout or the ski guys had it.
No, it's exactly the same. So,
Nothing's changed.
And that area is already included, already has the sidewalk. and-
Sure.
Right.
so, what I had a question on, and maybe this is for Jerry. Don't we need, a description of what the right of way is in that second recital?
Joe,
Okay,
and if you approve this, we will plug in the, probably what we'll do is say, right away, is that Argentine?
Yes.
Right away, Argentine Street adjacent to lot 423.
Okay,
We'll add that. We'll add that after.
okay. Well, the map that came with this, unfortunately, it was an ILC, improvement location certificate, and it didn't really have any dimensions on the length of, so if you look at the map, the parking area, I guess, doesn't really extend. It extends past the lot line,
Well, we can do two things with this. You'll notice that the agreement doesn't refer to an exhibit.
correct,
So the map is in the packet is for information.
yeah,
I think at a minimum, you obviously say in the sub 2, right of way of Argentine Street adjacent to the lots 4 and 23. So that's, and it allows them to encroach into the right of way. You can go on to attach a map, but we don't have one. If the town administrator feels we need more specificity to be able to govern how far out into the right of way they are, maybe we can ask for a little map to be made that shows the degree of the encroachment and have it attached. Would that be helpful?
okay,
And the applicant's on the phone, right? That's. you'll be
Yes.
able to do that, applicant?
Tina, can you hear?
You're okay with adding such a map?
Yes, I can come by tomorrow and get specifics on what you want. That way I can get it to you as soon as possible.
okay,
So when you get around to action item, or action mode, it'd be a motion to approve the encroachment license agreement with the corrections in addition of the map as discussed. With, I think, picture there.
okay. And that brings up my next concern, which is under the notes on the improvement location certificate. There's a note by the surveyor that the parking area shown hereon lies outside the record title lines. And this surveyor was not provided with and did not research any public documents defining or granting this use. So are we wanting to allow, it really only affects that northern edge.
No, I mean, my take on that with respect to the surveyor, when they're asked to survey things like that, they point out the stuff that were surveyed.
Okay,
And they're welcome to continue to be concerned about that themselves. But our purpose is here, are we merely granting encroachment onto a part of the world that you can identify?
right,
And it doesn't have to be identified with particularity with the surveyor.
got it.
And instead, we're gonna have a map that's gonna get developed, it's gonna show the part of the world that's being encroached on. And that map gets attached to this encroachment license agreement. That'll serve the purpose, and I would not attach the survey.
Correct, okay, okay,
So with details enough showing how the distance, would that be helpful?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we can sort of create the map here as a group discussion, or, which we can do. But very honestly, I believe that all that needs to be done is if you are, you know this area and you've seen where the encroachment is. It's not like it's unknown to any board member. So I would be inclined to recommend approval of the agreement with the correction to paragraph 2 and the addition of a map to the satisfaction of the town administrator. Then you can get it done and do it.
And Tina and I can actually go out there
Yeah.
and put dimensions on it, so it shows that it's 5 feet from this point, 10 feet from this point. Is that fine, Tina?
Yes, I can be there in the morning. Thank you.
all right. Okay, that's all I have. Anyone else have questions or comments on this? Okay. Did you have anything you wanted to share with us, Tina?
I just wanted to thank you for your time, but the new owners are aware. If there's any changes that it has to go through the town, it's been made very clear that this is only an encroachment license as long as you agree. So they are very cautious as far as any changes they will get with you as soon as anything is requested. So their plan is to keep it the same.
Okay, all right, thank you.
We have a motion in the packet, and I would just add, we're gonna make a motion, it's printed in the packet. Add at the end of that motion that's shown with the correction of paragraph 2 and the addition of a map to the satisfaction of the town administrator.
Well, I'll move to approve the 1416 Argentina Street encroachment license with the correction to the paragraph 2 and the inclusion of the map satisfactory. Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the encroachment license with the changes noted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2 is resolution number 11, series 2022, updating the fee schedule. A resolution of the Board of Selectmen for the town of Georgetown, Colorado, amending fees on our fee schedule.
Things that we're wanting to add to or amend. One is a bin certification fee of $20. The second is town, well, let me back up before I explain. Let me explain it. We have a town event parking area, on Argentine or going towards the lake on the west side. This would be a great opportunity for us as a town when we have events and we're looking for a parking area where to put them. And we thought it's a great opportunity for us to, because it's locked up right now, let's turn it into something that can create revenue / provide a solution to an issue, parking. And so the thing would be peak season, out of peak season. Peak season would be approximately 50 spaces, it'd be $5 a car or $250 per day to rent that. Out of peak season would be $150, approximately $3 per car. And this could solve a great opportunity long term. This is until we have to then redefine it and the fire hall comes in there. But in the meantime, it can solve, it's a solution to our parking situation. So for events, for all kind, these are typically kind of where someone wants to rent out, say like the Cabin Creek Brewery, they would hold an event, they open it up, and now we can say they can pay for parking there to host that. Because if not, it's a big challenge during the peak season, trying to find parking places around the lake and everything else. So it solves that. So those are my 3 things I would like to add. Questions?
If it's for event parking, is there any way that you incorporate roundabout to give people a ride down to the Center Street?
They charge for that, the roundabout.
They do.
Well, if you were to engage with them for like a certain time frame and not just the regular bus route.
Right.
I mean, if it was during the regular route time, it would be okay, but
Right.
otherwise, it's fee.
Right. How many buses do you have? Right.
Well,
How about the other, that's fine. Let's stop.
I don't know. I think it's something out there.
However, I just thought, it was just a thought of being able to somehow make a liaison between that event parking lot and downtown.
Well, we're talking about this rental fee applying to like a group or a business who wants to hold an event. And then they would worry about that shuttle piece, we would not be responsible. So, I just wondered if we needed to further define peak and off season.
I would agree with that.
Sure.
It's a little open to interpretation.
Sure. And I know that, I guess my thoughts about that was, Georgetown Days is kind of like the opening of peak season, and then it goes until maybe the end of September. Whenever, that seems to kind of decline. I don't know, it's Labor Day or Memorial Day, but one of those at the end of the season kind of defines again, Labor Day.
But then we have leaf season, and we're busy during leaf season, which is not defined on the calendar, we will not find it in any calendar at all.
Does it change? Well, after Labor Day, you got Halloween, there's a lot of, kind of events. Sometimes around that thing.
Well, we're talking difference between town events and events sponsored by other entities.
I mean, and I guess I'm just thinking, it's a peak season of when we have people here. It's like, that would be peak season though, so we can say, if you're gonna hold an event while we're crammed already, it's gonna cost $250. If it's during winter and there's nothing much going on, then we can.
Well,
But to me, it's like, yeah, I mean, that may be the exception, Christmas market is still peak for us, but it gives us some parameters. And how many events are we gonna have during Christmas? I mean, it's like, maybe we open that up and it's not, we're not paying for that, because that's the big event that. It gives us some discretion there.
Clapper half marathon. We did anything like that, yeah.
If they don't use that, and they,
The fuel races. For our
They
races.
don't use that one, that they do.
But they do need a staging area. There could be a place where, because don't they go under the bridge and literally they go up the Empire Trail?
Right.
Dan, can you switch to gallery view? so I
Sure.
can see her
I mean, she's not on her,
I know she's not on video, but when she started to say something, it would at least light up her.
well, it sounded like you heard her, so.
Yeah,
There's also a thing that Zoom does where when you guys are speaking already, the reason you weren't hearing me on the votes is because it doesn't, all of the external areas are turned off while you guys are speaking.
okay, but did you have a question or a comment?
I have a question and a comment.
Thank you.
Last meeting, we went into getting the business promotion guys to be able to use more funds to bring more people in. This seems like it would be counterproductive to that. It seems like one more fee on the people holding the event. It also seems in a secondary way that it should be based on the wear and tear and how much of our manpower is needed down there, rather than on peak or non-peak, because it'll be the same thing, but it's one thing to charge when we have to have one of the policemen down there kind of keeping track, and maybe a couple of our own people directing traffic in the parking area. And it just seems like that would be acceptable to charge for because it's an actual charge, but not just because they're holding an event on some day.
Sure.
So this came from us because there's an event that's coming. And I can't remember if it's like a wedding rehearsal or something like that. So
It's a run around the lake,
okay.
and then they're all meeting at Cabin Creek.
Yeah, so
There's nowhere for them to park.
So they don't have parking that, for the number of people that's coming. So one of the solutions was let's create something like this, that we would have an overflow lot, that event would have to charge, pay for in order to secure the parking that's required for that event. Because we can't give them public space when it's gonna be busy. So that was the rationale behind it. And knowing that there's other events that come into town and where, that wants to use the lake and things like that, and it would be a perfect opportunity to talk about that and have the parking secured for them to do that.
It also, charging a fee for it, the rental would pay for our personnel to be able to cover the cleanup afterwards, which is going to be inevitable.
Securing it, grading it, cleaning up, monitoring these kind of things, it does pay for that.
I can see a need for this, but I think we're acting a little bit too hasty at this time.
We've got it.
Oh,
I mean,
so-
unless you have something to say.
Well, that lot isn't ready for prime time parking. And we've been arguing, discussing the situation with that lot since at least last December, when we've had, you know, someone from the community come up to us. I know, Rick, you've been looking into relocating all the, you know, piles of road base and melons or whatever. To me, I think it's worth looking into, but I'm not comfortable moving on it right now without the parameters of the definition of the seasons or the dates that correspond to it. If, as Deanne brought up, we are trying to encourage certain events to come into town, and then all of a sudden I'm going to be tacking on another fee in addition to this. I can see some pushback from some of our existing races, as in marathon races.
I think it gives them just an opportunity, if they wanted to rent the space, they're not, no one has to rent this.
I get that, but then Georgetown really doesn't have a lot of parking for larger events. And then it does incur another cost if someone was to provide a shuttle service. So
Sure.
it's a good idea to keep looking into, but I'm not comfortable adding it just at this point.
Sure.
But,
I have a question. So improvements need to be made and grading and all that before it's even considered,
Yes.
So is that we consider it regardless of whether we set a fee schedule or not?
Just to make it an operable lot.
Right. That way you can also see how much the need really is. Folks are asking for it or not.
Any other thoughts?
I'd be happy to put some more thought to this. I do know we would like to move the millings down, further down, and then grade the lot so it's, you know, it's a lot more accessible. So I'd be happy to table this and bring back. Yeah.
So,
That's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea.
sure. So if we delete both of those parking lot rental fees, but I'm guessing the police department still wants the VIN verification fee in there, correct?
I think if it's going to go private, it's going to be entirely up to them. We're going to have a lot of involvement, kind of what happened in Michael Springs. They have oversight, but they don't follow through on the private vendor charging for parking.
Sure. I'm talking about the VIN verification fee that's included in this.
Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me, Mary just noticed that it's already on there, and that is under. What was it? I can't hear you.
Police department.
Oh, it's under police department, then, but it's only $10.
So it's $10?
Yeah.
Increasing it.
And we're increasing it to 25, okay, so I'm just,
Updating the fee.
I
Now
know.
it's on the public records.
yeah, we need to move it up, and we need to add it, make it be 25, it was
It's
10.
on page 2, it's just up
Actually,
one category.
the standard sheriff's office that is being used is $20.
Okay,
$20, okay.
so increase that to 20.
Okay.
And that puts it where it needs to be. So, is that agreeable with everyone?
Yes.
And the other thing, you can simplify it by just making a flat fee, since it's maybe hard to describe what is on and off season.
Well,
We're tabling that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so All right, so going back to the resolution. And there's probably a motion in the packet, yes. Who would like to make that?
That's right. I'm going to approve resolution number 11, series 2022. Resolution of the board of selectmen to the town of Georgetown, Colorado, ending the bid verification fee on the fee schedule.
John,
Moved and seconded to approve resolution number 11, series 2022 as revised. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
No,
I'm waiting. Did you vote?
no,
Okay. You're voting, okay, all in favor say aye, we did. Opposed?
opposed,
Okay, thank you. So next we have the 2022 county coordinated election intergovernmental agreement. Who would like to intro? Run.
Sure, are you sure? What you said?
Okay.
Sure, this is the IGA for the county clerk. But for Jack, you know, we're looking at the ballot question, are we gonna pursue that, we're getting the language and all that stuff together? This is our deadline, so we have to have this showing that we're gonna submit something. I don't know if there's any questions that we have to talk about, discuss.
And of course, the consideration for you is if the board believes it will not be forwarding a question for November, then you don't need to have the agreement in place. If you know that tonight, then don't bother with the agreement, you don't have to have it in place, we take no action on the agreement. If you don't know that tonight, or want to take more time to think about that, approve the agreement, and you can later tell the county, you know, we don't have a question to be put on the ballot, never mind. So those are really the two doors. If you're confident you will not have a ballot question, it's no point to do the agreement and sort of confuse the county a little bit and spend their time counting on you when you're not going to be there. But if you want more time to think about whether you'll be there, might even produce a question. You should have the agreement.
And I think it's a consideration that Rick and I are going to be meeting with the county manager and George Marlin and mayors and town administrators from Idaho Springs, Empire and Silver Plume tomorrow from 11 to 12 to talk about what exactly the county is proposing for their ballot question. So we don't even know what they're asking yet. So I personally would be in favor of keeping us on schedule to be able to participate if we decide we want to, and we can always back out at the next stage. So that's my feeling.
Well, that's what we decided in the last meeting, is to not show this away, just in case.
Yeah, so if you still feel that way, then, you know, that's the way I'm looking at it, so. Any other comments or questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the 2022 general election.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the intergovernmental agreement for the 2022 general election. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
opposed,
Thank you. And lastly, in our action items is a professional services agreement for for, the Strauss Park project?
Okay, so this is, Bob Hamilton has asked me to create this agenda item so that he can have another person there helping him. It speeds the process along. He's a contractor. Basically, we're removing the middleman cost. We're going straight in and paying him instead of paying a contractor who then charges up charges. So we're getting this guy at $35 an hour, which we're paying the contractor $50 an hour to then hire him to do this. So we're basically saving the town money, but we're creating an opportunity to help speed along and have someone else's eyes to help the schedule and the budget to maintain so we can get this project done. And we also capped it at, same cap as what we did with Bob to keep this going. I talked to Bob, he said we have it in the budget, so he's moving and asking us to do this.
I know this contractor, I've worked with him for years. Yeah. He's really the person we want.
I haven't known personally as well.
So,
I like.
any questions or other comments?
I move to approve Richard Ryder bid as professional service contract.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Richard Ryder Lavis, okay. Service contract. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any-
I,
Okay, any opposed? No. Thank you. On to staff items. In your packet, you have a update from Bob Hamilton on the Strauss Park project. Any questions or comments on it?
No, it's good. It's amazing what work he's doing.
Yeah.
I'm
It is.
really impressed. Good man.
So just to add to the Strauss Park, we've had a lot of issues with the bathrooms, especially one on the left side working. And we've had multiple plumbers come and try to fix it. Basically, if it flushes, it just pours. It won't stop flushing. And so we've had them to come in, flush the line out, readjust things, and still not working. So I contacted the manufacturer and said, this should be under warranty, what's going on? Why are we having to do these things? So they shot with me over the phone of all the things that we've been doing to try to fix the situation, and they overnighted the diaphragm, which is the guts of inside the valve. And so it was overnighted to us yesterday. We had Mac Bit Plumbing coming on tomorrow to then insert this and try it again, and then we'll go from there. I've also asked about, because we had a discussion, Cindy Neely and I yesterday, about the original bid that was submitted to this company about having lockable locks or time lock, automatic time locks that we can have set up. I did reach out to them and say, could you also explain, this, from my understanding, that this was part of the bid and this wasn't delivered. And so this would significantly help us with staffing and everything else having to come out at night and early in the morning to these things. So I'm waiting on a response to that, but those are two things that hopefully will fix our bathroom situation.
Any questions or comments on the Strauss Park report? Next, we have a complaint that was given to us about an obstructed sidewalk at 809 Middle Street.
So, Miss Kathy Cunanan has sent me several emails, and I have spoken to her on the phone, and then she submitted a formal letter of complaint that you got in your packet, basically saying that I have not responded to her complaints and wanted formal action taken by this board. And so I have spoken to her multiple times since then. I have documented everything that I submitted to you so that you see that I have been working on this complaint. I have sought to contact the owner of 809 Biddle and have not heard back. I've looked at, researched our code. Our code says that what we're supposed to do, reach out. If they don't respond, then the town can take action and remove the obstacle that's on the sidewalk that's intruding. So I guess the thing that I want to communicate to the board is, I don't like this kind of interaction. This is very harsh. And I typically, take issues and I deal with them immediately, but to come formally before you even have to submit desires and certain things from, I just feel like it's a little harsh and over the top. And I don't even want to have to report that to you like this, but this is, I have submitted and it is, we've talked to the staff and we are addressing it already. So hopefully next week is we'll go in there and we'll cut the obstructions. She's also submitted another complaint and done the same thing with the hotel, I can't remember the name. And I researched the code. I looked at the DRC notes to find out what was approved and authorized. And her complaint is that the lighting, exterior lighting is not dark sky compatible. And the research I found is that it was authorized, it was reviewed, and it's probably the only hotel in Georgetown that actually is dark sky compatible. It agrees with the code. So again, it's a very formal complaint, forcing us and using my valuable resource and time to deal with things like this. And I'm asking for council's help to how do we deal with the situation? I mean, it's frequently now.
Ms. Hewnan brings several things to light to this board. And she needs to be heard and things taken care of, if so, and we'll get them all done.
Well, I am addressing this.
I think it's fine, the action that you've taken, I'm fine with that, we appreciate that you researched it and
Yeah.
it should come up with something else, so I don't think there's a way to stop that or minimize it and rather than that.
Yeah.
And she does very much appreciate being referred to as doctor, because she does have a very much so appreciate her sharp eyes being out in the community. So town administrators report.
Yeah, so I submitted my report. Lots of projects going on. So good news, I just want to start with, CERSA did award us the claim of $27,000 towards our servers. So that is.
Check came today.
And the check came today. So still, Christine Johnson with Excel's Watershed, we're meeting this week, me and Cindy Neely, just going to be talking to her. And so we're kind of moving forward. The salary study is nearly finished, and so Mary and I are hoping to present next board meeting. So anyways, I'm really excited about that. We've done a lot of hard work, countless hours on this, and the data that was found and determined was more surprising than I thought. When I first came in, I knew that you guys had communicated to me that was an issue about trying to get our salaries adjusted to be for retention and for a new hire to be competitive in the community. But it was much significantly, we were much significantly lower than what our surrounding towns are. And so just letting you know, and I'll give you the documents and we'll talk to it this next one. So, but I'm pleased that Mary spent a lot of time helping with it. Small things I know some of you have mentioned to me, but, Randy did help, discover some, graffiti wipes that have been in his office for a while. It's like 20 years old, and shockingly, they still work. So I have removed most of the graffiti, and, the only thing that's lacking now is around the lake. Some of the trash bins still have graffiti, on it, but other than that, we have cleaned it up, so it looks much better.
Right.
My wife said that if you give her the materials, she, do that on that, something she likes to do.
That's. I think just around the.
20-year-old wipes, I guess, got it work.
They work.
She
Just need a little water. Yeah, so our staff are working hard. Ryan, is Ryan out?
He'll be back tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, and so is Peter, they're taking some days off. So, they're working hard and I'm proud of them and, you know, we've got a great staff, and I can't say that enough. So they're busy, we frequently meet, we talk all the time about what's going on in the community. We're knocking out a lot of the list. The biggest issues that I'm seeing right now, based on, these are my issues that I keep track of. The biggest ones that I'm seeing right now are street and drainage related right now. And so mill sites and even at the Clear Creek condos and Creekside condos, there's an issue behind, you know, on the other side where the big horn apartments are, the grade is higher, and so it's creating now runoff down into theirs. So it's another issue that I'll look at tomorrow, but our roads are in disarray. It's high party right now, so we are trying to get our crew bulked up to work on these road problems that we have. So, any questions that you have for me?
With the parking lot or Grinnell Pass? Or it's actually a town parking lot, right?
It is, it's town owned.
So I know we've heard complaints before from Steve Stalsky and I'm sure other business owners in here about what's that product, John, that the version put on it? Yeah, some kind of sealer that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We used to use magnolia.
Yeah.
Dust control.
And I know that's such a touchy parking lot with all the construction going on in Strauss Park. But this is peak season.
Yeah, what we're waiting on right now is the owner of the apartment behind me is gonna be having, an engineer, take some elevation points, and is gonna submit advice to us to regrade it a little bit, so it doesn't fall into his, because in the heavy waters, the water is running towards his apartment. So if we can grade it a little bit, once we get the elevations where it should be appropriate, then we can put the millings down and have it slope that way. But before we would put millings, we would have to just take all that back out, you know, doubling the work. So we're kind of waiting on this engineer to come and do some elevations, to kind of give us some points of where is it and where should it be in order to get the slope to go to the road.
And yet they're pointing the finger at us, which may be our problem, but then are we having someone on our side of the situation, the town, whoever engineering review that report?
Sure.
I just don't want some, just to make sure that, you know, they're not asking for pie in the sky and it really only needs this. Just don't want us to be taken advantage of,
Right.
so.
I'll have Bob review the findings from the civil engineers.
Sounds good.
Hold on, I just want to confirm that I have.
Thanks, Mayor. Have a seat today.
I did meet with him on Friday, and he is proposing another change. I know that we have seen multiple changes. He knows his commitment is for 53 units. He would like to change the model to go back to what he had from the other apartments, to the same exact kind of apartments, dressed up a little different so that it doesn't look the same, but it would be 53 units of apartments, where we have 3 buildings, he would have 2 buildings. These buildings are east to west, those buildings would be north to south. It would be on the far end. In the middle space, he would give to the town as a park dedication. So that's what he's gonna submit a site plan. I will bring it back to you to see, but that's what he's asking if the town would consider.
Are you going to DRC with that, or does that have to be done first?
Well,
Because the-
I think once I see it, Jerry and I will talk through it, and probably Martin as well, to see how much is this different from the COA that was already appropriated for their site design. So I suspect it'll go back to the DRC.
what about the foundation that
He said that we would.
they, about cleaning up the law?
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Will this exceed this won't have a problem with our wastewater plant?
Say it again.
This won't have a problem with our wastewater plant, its capacity.
Same number of units.
Same number of units. So I know, it's like, we'll see.
What you said?
The other consideration is this. Are they apartments or condos?
Apartments.
Okay, which then changes a previous agreement for having some of the townhome units that were yet to be built, the hospitality units.
And you would eliminate that.
Okay, so
Eliminate the short-term rentals.
But
they
that,
were hospitality units, we have to use that term. So
but that may have impact on
the
the
hotel,
microtel, because part of their agreement was for additional hospitality units, and it may even impact their financing, which I know is on their business end, but it's gonna be a sticky web.
And there are a number of interrelated things.
Yeah.
The hospitality units added to the number of rooms for the hotel, as I recall,
Yeah.
and that affected the help and satisfy the help and satisfy the requirements. So it's all kind of interrelated. And there's no question that you're probably aware of that, and I do think, I agree with Rick, that when we get some kind of proposal, Rick and I and the town planner need to sit down and say, okay, if this is what is being asked for, private property owners, when I was asked to change things, you know, you don't have to say yes, but they have the right to ask, and the obligation to process it. But we will need to sit down and say, all right, what should be the process, and if you're gonna ask for this, it's argued that you also have to ask for, you know, this and that, so it affects these improvements, so that's gotta be packaged back to the property owner to decide if that's the kind of application we want to file. Once we kind of worked our way through that, and they still want to move forward, we'll probably have to put together a little line diagram that shows everyone's benefit, that shows here's the piece of this puzzle, we're all working on the same time. We'll do that.
okay. All right,
Stay tuned.
okay. Anybody have any questions for Rick? Okay, moving on. I think that, do you want to deal with the task list separately, or was that?
I mean, I kind of did some of the tasks
Yeah.
in here.
I kind of.
Does anyone have any questions about task list?
Okay. So then we are on to a topic that was requested by our police department, discussion on long-term hotel stays.
Yes, I'll start with hotel rooms. Sergeant Gaskins had presented what he described as a more academic presentation. But I need to put forth that it's our intention to try to, I don't know what the right vernacular will be, but untable the ordinance we were seeking in 2016, 2017. That was tabled. That was to prohibit the short-term stay hotels from allowing to stay longer than 30 days, or 21 days, because of all the problems entailed with that. The reason it was tabled was to allow, basically to allow the hotels to try to manage it themselves, and that has been accomplished poorly. So, for this new plan to happen, there are a lot of things before we should even consider zoning changes. And then if they choose to do it without zoning changes, revisiting this ordinance would be in the best interest. So we cannot, so that will keep that from happening without changes. I think it's real important. We have a lot of numbers from similar cities, similar situations, and things and such. I'll give all that up to Sergeant Gaskins to present. Mostly, this would be very problematic to have what described. Unless they go full bore and meet zoning requirements, safety requirements, a lot of other stuff, which is more cost than it sounded like this speculator wanted to put forth. So, I'll leave Sergeant Gaskins.
No, we just wanted to, when the, this proposal came up, the roofs, they titled it. And what they described, what they were wanting to do is essentially take a 250 square foot room, convert it into a long-term residency, and that's tantamount to what's going on in some of our neighboring towns where they have units almost like motels that have these small rooms, but they're long-term stays. And what happens is, and we're not trying to, impugn a specific group of people. What we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent a situation from being created that breeds the social root causes of crime. We just don't have the resources here to address what goes on. And I took data from 2 of the establishments in another jurisdiction, where one of them had over 300 calls in a 3.5-year period. We have robberies, disturbances, assaults, child abuse. One of the child abuse cases here this summer was the worst the district attorney has ever seen. When we talk about inequality, low social or low value placed on single individual's well-being, including children, things of that nature. We get into television as a overexposure television is means of recreation, and you have these small rooms. There's no recreation to go on, and this really pertains to the young people, and it disconnects them from interacting with their peers, so that they develop the social behaviors that end up becoming what society needs in terms of, when we talk about pro-social behaviors. In fact, they don't learn how to interact with people. And that's how we, and it just summarizing it going off on a long shot, it's really how we end up with active shooters. They don't understand how to interact with people, and this is how they carry it out. It goes to not only television, but violence on television and violence in video games. We don't want to create those situations where people become victims and then which leads to personal and property crimes. And in the packet, I think I outlined, how many crimes, how many personal property crimes were committed, how many, assaults were committed, things of that nature. Drug abuse is rampant, alcoholism. This the low social value that they throw themselves to cope with the problems of life. Another issue is lack of services. This town doesn't really have the services to combat these issues like a large metropolitan area would. There's, for example, a disparity in educational values. This is an educational state, but not everyone has an education. And to combat that, you would have vocational services and things of that nature to get people in line with achieving an education, and then ultimately increasing their rate of pay. And with the cost of living that we see in the state alone is huge. This is being billed as low income housing, however, they're charging $1,400 a month, which is still not what we consider, low income. It is low income, comparatively speaking. But we're trying to avoid the problems that we will see, not maybe, but we will see as a town. If this construction goes through, we don't have the resources as a police department to combat it. We simply don't. And I don't want to overtax our ability as a police department and then have it be public trust, where the public then sees us as you're ineffective, you're not doing your job. Why are we seeing an increase in crime? Why is violence up? Why is my house and my cars and my property being broken into and stolen? We don't want to see that. And we don't want to put people in that position that will lead to that type of criminal behavior. So, anyway, I wrote up the presentation there just to kind of illustrate what is a high probability should something like this be developed. And I understand housing is a premium here, but there's a productive way to go about increasing that, and then there's a not so productive way that's going to actually cause more problems than it seeks to solve. And in the end, the developers seek to fill their pockets with money, and we're left, dealing with that from that. So, if anybody has any questions, it's kind of the presentation essentially.
I don't dispute any of the information that you shared with us, and I think before that, it's one perspective to more offhand what the similar establishments are charging their tenants, residents in Idaho Springs.
I do not
And
know
I know
what
that it doesn't
yeah, what they're-
fall to your purview, but.
I don't know what the rent is these days, and I hate to hazard a guess.
Well, I was thinking the 1,400 sounds a little bit pricey for what's
For,
down there.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think the guess that what they're charging tenants, but,
I know Idaho Springs, from what I read in the current, so where from a month or so ago, they're looking at, stricter licensing of some of their properties down there because they are having some issues. I think the hotel is a long-term residence is kind of a different definition than what I was envisioning when we first started to talk about this, and I'm not quite ready to just say no to it without knowing what the plan of this developer could be, taking into, considerations that of what we want to maintain here as a community, but also stipulating to them that perhaps the price of what we would want for them to provide is something that, they don't want to, so.
Let me just add on to that, we've kind of seen some issues that, we're predicting at the Georgetown Lodge, because they have some people there that are sitting. And what they've done is, they've invited some friends over, and they're hoarding. And there's drug use. I stopped a vehicle, I went to stop a vehicle a couple weeks ago, and it raced up to the back of the Georgetown Lodge. I'm behind it, the passenger grabs the bag from the vehicle, runs into an unknown room. The driver gets out to try to run, and I grab the driver. Driver's got some warrants. Girlfriend's the one who ran. Don't know what was in the bag, but previously searching their room about a week prior to that, there was methamphetamine in there, evidence of methamphetamine use. This is what we can expect. And it's just gonna get more dangerous for the community as a whole when this type of crime moves in. And then when we can't address it properly, you can see where it kind of spirals down. I hate to get into that situation because then trying to gain control again is near impossible.
Just to be clear, when you say Georgetown Lodge, are you talking about Georgetown Mountain Inn?
No, the lodge, the actual Georgetown Lodge, is the old Super 8.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What I didn't have in here is I didn't put the number of psychiatric issues that go on in these places, and that's just kind of a byproduct of everything I've discussed, all these attributions and factors in you know, the root causes of crime will lead to psychiatric issues, and psychiatric issues, as we all know, present a whole new animal when dealing with it. Law enforcement's not really equipped to deal with it. We don't have those services up here. We don't have social services that are on standby to come out with EMS, to come out with law enforcement and properly address them, and we don't want people hurt. And that's it. I just didn't include it in there because it's not a personal property crime, but just so you know, it's a high rate.
Do you know of other communities, like, within a radius that have taken on this and successfully created an ordinance that prohibits this or tries to control it in some way?
I know Springs is trying to control it. They're trying to get a handle on it, and they're creating some ordinances. And I don't know the exact verbiage of what, you know, that are targeting these places. Just having my radio on at night, it's just constant calls from these places. So if there's any benefit to those new ordinances, I don't know. And again, in order to address what is going on here, we really have to have the resources. We have to have, you know, public social services. You know, we do have a food bank, but not everybody can drive. There is public transportation. But you know, it's when the availability of public transportation, when we get on and go there, we don't have any vocational resources. We don't have anything to take individuals who want to improve their situational quality of life and give them that boost. There's nothing up here like that. And so they just kind of settle down into this, you know, dark hole of depression, and it never improves for them. And we don't want to contribute to their plight, and we certainly don't want to create a situation that that negatively impact other residents and the community as a whole here in Georgetown. That's what we're trying to avoid.
This developer successfully developed some property similar to the situation of, you know, the housing situation in Durango. Have you had any conversation ordinance wise or law enforcement response to the properties that they have down there open and running and the impact on the community? I realize Durango's got, you know, different set of services and everything, but I'm just from the, you know, the socioeconomics that you're referring to, and you know, and what the call ratio is.
I have not reached out to any other jurisdiction on this matter. I was hoping to speak with the developer. I was hoping they were going to attend a planning committee meeting a short time ago, but they didn't show up. So I didn't get a chance to converse with them to kind of elaborate, you know, in their plan, you know, what they were thinking. But in their map, you know, for example, they would take the main office of the Georgetown Lodge, and with the size of that building, they were going to create an additional 10 units. That's it's difficult to fathom, but you know, just superficially, it doesn't look like, it doesn't look, you know, I don't see how they have an idea how this is going to help our community. You know, that's really what I want to get to. How do you think this is going to help our community?
I got some comments.
Sure.
So, I want to speak on just my recent conversation with the developer and then my recent conversation with the buyer. Walking through and talk about it. I'll start with him first, because his concerns were, what if they try to make it long-term now? And then that goes against the ordinance that they were trying to, you know, get going back in 2016 to prevent this. His issues from a fire authority is, these are rooms that are designed to be short-term, and so they're not designed to be long-term. But if you have someone living in it long-term, now they're going to be cooking and doing other things in there that those buildings were not designed for. Second is, they don't have fire suppression system in them. And so, as long as they're operating like it is, it's kind of like their grandfather in, they can perpetually do this. But wanted to get it changed so that it would become a new use, then require them to then upgrade so that you would equip them with proper firewalls, kitchenettes and sprinkler systems. So he would, as far as his concern of hazard, mitigation of risk, he would be fine as long as they would go with a new code change incorporating new standards. So that's what his concerns were. John's concerns were, a little different from that. As far as the developer would really like to then bypass DRC, New State Planning, to try to present. Unfortunately, I had to remind that our code doesn't allow that. You have to go back to DRC and start the whole process. They contemplated the last time that if they were going to go, they decided not to. They are planning to go soon. They have not disclosed when that is, but they said that they were going to submit application for rezoning, and that's all of that. We have talked extensively about those concerns. They are not, what he told me is he knows he has the right to make a long-term stay, is not interested in that at all. He's interested in rezoning 2 apartments, not a motel or so long-term stay.
Okay. I wanted to echo Mary's appreciation for putting this in front of us again. I guess I'm very torn because I sympathize with the folks who make use of this as long-term, because it's kind of like it's hard for them to get their foot in the door with any other kind of housing and shelter. It's just very difficult for them. The other group that this would affect, and we need to take that into consideration, is the contractors for longer projects that say CDOT does, that tend to rent for longer term in, they've used several motels for those kind, put their workers up. And yes, you can get police calls from those folks too. Usually probably different. They're usually having one too many drinks at the end of the day. And so, but we do need to be aware that there is a need for that. And if they were to, if this were to be prohibited or restricted so that use couldn't happen, where are they gonna stay? Are we gonna put up, RVs in random places that just be, it's a different problem, just moved out? So that's my concern, is where are these people who are now housed and yes, it's not an ideal situation by any means, but where they're gonna wind up if we don't tread carefully and figure out something that doesn't just squeeze them out and send them into encampments on the hillside that are just another, harder trek to get to when the domestic situation or robbery or whatever else happens. It just seems like the solutions are very few.
Up in this county, the solutions are few. If I were in somebody's place like that, I would certainly seek the larger metropolitan area to get, to get established and to, receive the services I need, versus going into a rural area where I know there's no services and then, then doing what? This is kind of like, walking off a cliff and knowing it's a cliff there. I don't want, and I understand that's how people are. I just don't want to contribute to their plight, I'd rather send them somewhere where they can get help and establish, rather than, sending them somewhere where I know that most likely they're just going to continue in their state of affairs, which is, often, leads to abuse and things of that nature. I certainly don't want to put children in that place, and they bring children with them.
There's another property that's being developed in Idaho Springs or redeveloped, and it was a hotel, I don't costs, like which one is, but I found out, it might be, I don't know, but there's a group in Evergreen that's, let's call it flipping it. But they have an arrangement with Loveland Ski Area and a few other businesses, local businesses, where their intent is to have very strict requirements that if there are any incidents, use Loveland as an example, Loveland, that your contract is terminated and you're out of that residence. And it's not jack offshore apartments, you know, I think that they're flipping a hotel. So I think there's information out there that our staff can gather as it's, you know, if the developer, you know.
Yeah, he hasn't snapped.
Yeah,
So we've only seen what he brought to us in early concepts, and then we've talked about it. So again, what he is wanting to do, he cannot do for the yard code. And so he knows that, and that's why he's then forced to kind of have to try to rezone in order to accomplish what he's looking for. So stay tuned. We're gonna have some more information submitted to us.
Well, and as I understand, I mean, just my own personal view is regardless of what they do, that could take quite some time. And there's a problem that's right here, right now, that should be dealt with as carefully as possible, as quickly as possible. It might not go as quickly as we'd like, but I wanna not just wait for the developer to see what they ask for and how that goes before we take some action.
Yeah.
At
Well,
least to do the research.
It does, it seems like we have some issues right now with the Georgetown Lodge. And that probably needs to be thought, and that's kind of why he's coming here suggesting we read that ordinance back, because it is gonna address their issues. And then the second is the rezoning and looking at, because we're going from motel to now apartments. You know, this is totally, I mean, long-term contract, short-term, even short-term, long-term, and it's a different kind of a person that would be coming. So, you know, one, right now, we have no control, it's transient, and it's probably contributing to the things that get mentioned. The other is a long-term lease apartment, and, you know, and now there's a commitment level financially that someone has to commit. I think the bigger question right now is, what are the this is the questions that me and John have dialogued over. What are the ramifications of a developer bringing in a 250 square foot space and charging $1,400, $1,500, $1,600? What does that do to now the other apartments who have larger spaces? Does that mean the rent will it contribute causing higher rents? I think that's the concern that we are thinking. Because if the developer or a property owner says, well, mine's 500 square feet, I'm gonna get 2,000 now, where he's not getting 2,000, but that almost may force, I think that's the thing that I'm more concerned with anything, is how do we cap that? Yeah, so the unintended consequences.
Yeah, I have a question. So I haven't read the ordinance, I wasn't here when it came up in 2016, but there's also, how do you know or enforce whether they were there more than 23 days? And whose job is it to know that and tell them they gotta go? So right now they can do it, but is that town staff? Is it our law enforcement? How do you
We're stuck on the proprietor for that. But we have issues, and we've had issues, and I asked, who's in room 248? You know, this was an individual who came here with a unregistered vehicle with an extensive drug manufacturing history. And he is holed up in room 248 and does not. I should use. Doesn't come out. So what does that tell us? You know, what's going on there? And is that a threat to the community? If that now becomes the convenience store for people going in and you know, purchasing narcotics or trading narcotics, that's a direct threat to the community.
So.
And then we get, and then we start
started
to
multiple calls over 30 days, then to us, then you know that it's a long-term rental.
Well, they tell us, how long has this individual been here? He's been here about 45 days. Okay, well, that exceeds, what we're proposing, that exceeds the, limitation for restricted.
Right now, it's not. There's not a, right, but they can tell you 23 days if that's the limit, and until there's another call past that time, right? To me, there's an enforcement issue, because whoever's running the hotel can tell you anything they want on the
Well, certainly,
first time or two, they get called out.
That's
You know what
like,
I'm saying?
that's like any investigation that we delve into, people can tell us anything, and we have to go and we have to kind of collect the facts. If they're not gonna be upfront and honest with us, then we have to go another route to get, to get all this data, or the facts that we need, to build a case. It's no different than that.
And then any low income housing unit, so we're in or near them, these are all issues that happen, whether it be Buffalo or Rapid City, South Dakota, or Idaho Springs. So that just comes with, if you have a lot of people in low income housing unit that's subsidized somehow, or it's maybe even real low rents. So the workforce that many of our business owners need, could have someone man their shops and cook the burgers and make the pizza.
So if I'm understanding what I think you're saying is that initially enforcement would be done more on as a call comes in to law enforcement, it would be dealt with, and if they overstayed what the ordinance allowed, then they would be asked to move on.
Right, yeah, we're certainly not gonna go through come through the records to see who was in there for 31 days, 45. If there's an issue, if it's brought up in a call and that we identify an issue, and then, we figure out, oh, they've been here for 60 days, that gives us a little more leverage to deal with the problem.
Sure.
As opposed to going there and, it kind of stop going and pouring over all the records, figure out who's been there, and then hammer them. That's not what we're looking for. What we just need is that extra tool to address, problematic issues.
The other thing that an ordinance, from a legal standpoint, I don't know if this is way left field, but there could be some kind of a penalty put onto failure of the owner of the establishment to enforce the ordinance.
Sure, what would be a code violation?
Sure.
You're operating a facility and you have committed a stay of longer than 3 days, so that's a straight up municipal court violation. Separate and apart from the person staying in the room.
Correct.
Which is, less your target, really, I suppose, than the hotel.
Yeah, so how does everybody feel about going forward, moving towards this, maybe not at breakneck speed, but not, bringing it back to life, not leaving it just tabled?
Until we get a plans submitted from a potential developer, we were also looking at some of the properties over there outside the scope of this hotel as to what we wanted to look at potentially rezoning out of some of our own, town-owned properties, so. We're not being pressed about it. Options open.
Okay.
I'd like to look at bring the ordinance to life. I think that I don't really want to get into that property until we get something from the owner. I have great concerns about overloading that property. I have great concerns about the square footage that we would be allowing people to be. I agree completely, Sergeant Gaskins, about no services up here, which makes the problem incredibly worse. And I've been on both sides of this thing. And I know that the rate they're charging is about what 80 Idaho Springs with 60/40. Or different times a year, but, so it's kind of, it seems usury for what you're getting. In fact, there is no services, and you're really straining people. Really need help. Not really, you just make a lot worse. But the ordinance can move forward. I don't see any reason to be slow on that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And that way the developer has to, consider that, again, it's another chip in the game, if they're gonna develop it. If we can, we're on board with 250 square feet for a family. Right?
Yeah, it seems problematic. I mean, I know how these things go, because like I said, both sides of this. And we need very, or it will be out of control just to start the gas.
Dan, did you have any comments or questions?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, first thing is, I agree completely with Sergeant Gaskin and Marshal Williams. This is a bad idea. It's going to draw a funny kind of demographic that we don't really want here. We already have quite a few registered offenders, and this would put some sketchy people right next to our nicest kid park. And I just don't like that whole concept altogether. The other thing is, the only place I have ever seen turning a motel into a residential situation that actually worked is Project Support down in Idaho Springs. But that's a completely different demographic of people, because with elderly, you seldom have all the drug and strange problems and violence and such. I don't like this idea at all. I can't imagine how we can make them, if an ordinance is put in place where the owner polices their residents, I can't see what we can do to make them, to hold them accountable. Because essentially our probably about 2 warnings and then third step is to shut the place down. And then we've got a whole bunch of really poor people who can't leave the town, and it's a bad idea. Thank you.
Are you saying, so I'm just trying to clarify, are you not in favor of going forward with the ordinance?
I don't think, like Mary was saying, I don't think it's clear enough yet. I want to have more distinct differences before I could support the ordinance. I was saying I don't support the hotel being made into a residence.
Okay, we're not really, we're not really discussing the pros and cons. Well, it sort of we are, but there's no application before us for rezoning that property from its current use to apartments. So right now, what I thought we were discussing was whether to take the ordinance that had been started in 2016, 17 and bring it back up and start working on it and taking it further.
If we work on it some more, that's a good thing, because it's not really clear in several spots.
Sure, absolutely. It wasn't ready then. It hasn't been worked on since then. It wouldn't be ready to just bring to the board for a vote. It needs some work, yes.
So it sounds to me the majority is wanting us to bring it back. And take it to Jerry and I.
We can do that.
All right, thank you so much, Sergeant.
Yes,
And next, we have the 2023 budget calendar. I know you've all been waiting for this.
of like Christmas.
Yes, we roll right from audit to budget.
Well, this year we did.
Yes, we did.
The only date that's probably gonna change because I'm 2 days behind getting out the worksheets to department heads and commissions, but everything else should stay the same. The first one.
So you're having them out by the 11th?
Oh, I should have them out by tomorrow afternoon. Today, I just got way late with some stuff.
Okay.
And then I put July's financials in your boxes. I'm going to be over the next week or so working on supplementals off of those numbers. So I can have a clear picture of budgeting.
Great.
Okay.
All right. And
Many of you have asked me, I think Mary and Lynette both asked me about the RFP for the audit. So Mary and I have been working on that. See, Mary, help me on that. So we have something, it's almost finished, and so we're gonna get that out as soon as possible. And then the second RFP is the one from CDOT, they're requesting for Arlington North project, and that goes to the sidewalk and bike path. And so that is in, we've gone through red line, going back on CDOT, and so that's where it finishes as well.
all right. That's good news. And why don't we go ahead? So I hope you've had a chance to look at the latest draft of the IGA for the fire authority. You should have gotten both their red line version and the clean copy. The county is still working on possible revisions, so we're not really ready to approve either of this tonight. I think our main goal is to point out anything that is still in there that we asked to be changed last time, or if there's something new that they've added that you have an objection to. John, did you?
No, it's absolutely correct.
Okay. So there's still a typo in there.
We need those in for you.
And the numbering really confused me until I realized what they were doing. They were shifting all the stuff that didn't have numbers. There were numbers with no paragraphs, and so they just shifted everything out. But it didn't look like that in the red line version, and I thought, how did they get this? So.
We did it just for you.
Just for me.
Actually, we're just looking for anything else that anybody's concerned about.
So.
Towns in general and the legal ones.
Okay. Does anybody else want to go first with any questions or comments on it? Okay, then I'll lead you. So, and unfortunately our pages aren't really, I can do it by number though. Yeah.
And on the red line or on the other.
Right.
I'm looking at the red line because it was easier to spot things. Presumably, they haven't deleted anything that appears in red line that doesn't show up in the clean version. Item number 14. Yep. Second line from the bottom of the page. I think it's supposed to be fourth instead of eighth. It was noted on the original one and we didn't action, so. So I guess I just had a question on item number 18, which has been completely deleted. However, the language in the deleted portion is really a lot different from the language in the original draft, and I just wondered why. I mean, it was like it got changed and then deleted.
I remember that I think that the fire authority legal advice was that it was.
Okay,
And I can check that.
okay. In number 32. Instead of referring to the state statute that governs the pension fund, we're now referring to the authority budget, which I presume is bound by the state statute that, so theoretically, you couldn't have an authority budget that didn't comply
That's exactly.
with the state statute, so, okay.
That's exactly.
Okay, okay.
A lot of language that would be
Okay,
confusing.
okay. And other than just all of the renumberings that start with number 36, which used to be 38, and so on and so on down the line, that's all I had. So, I thought the section, particularly on the section that refers to the mills and how our fee would then be bound by whatever is in place for the mills and how that is structured, it's much clearer in the new draft than it was in the old.
That was the goal, a lot of brain damage. And we're still not completely there.
It does not ever put the cap on that used to be there, which.
That was the county asking for that to be removed.
Okay, and I was concerned at first, and then I thought, okay, but any increase to that mill levy has to go to the voters, and if it's something more than like 9 mills, it's very likely you're gonna have a very difficult time passing.
Yeah.
So, perhaps we don't need the cap to be stated.
I think we're still in flux on it. We'll just kind of wait and see
Okay.
what the county is doing. They sort of wanted to free it at this point before it's beyond that.
Is it also because even if you were to cap it at 9, that too may not be sufficient?
Right, but they had some concerns about getting extra monies and putting it towards the fire authority. It felt like there was a conclusion, although I think our lawyer was saying that what's the harm at this point? Not looking at that's the fact.
Okay.
So hopefully that's helpful. If I understand, that correctly.
Okay. So, all right. So,
We just keep moving forward.
yep.
In good faith.
Or
Yes. It's a long process, there's lots of issues. Yeah, there are.
Deanne, did you have any questions or comments?
Not really. Not really, thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, and then, Mary wanted us to talk about meeting logistics.
So I know our technology is less than 100% for those who tune in. Losing my voice, and I know Jen and I have had conversations that it's hard when she goes back and tries to, put together the minutes. I know I've listened to some of our meetings. I'm sure this happens not only for the board of selectmen, but for any other commissions that are meeting. Rick and I had a conversation a few weeks back or whatever about trying some, taking advantage of the old school. They have a totally different technology set up. Jen, you went over there.
I did.
We're kind of impressed.
Yes, I'm having a meeting on Thursday with our tech guys coming up for an on-site visit to see what can be done. So, yes.
Anyway, in the meantime, because our audio is pretty bad, I'll clean up my language. And even after the conversation on Thursday, with the tech people, if something can't be done very quickly, could we just temporarily change our venue with all the proper public notice and everything, and see if there's a more practical way.
You have a place for the audience and a place for.
I think the old school might be, and I'm discussing, I haven't had any conversations, personal conversations over there, but it's certainly a larger building that people wanted to attend. We just need to explore that, but I'm not gonna put into all sorts of hoops, asking what you could do, so maybe that was a possibility for us to, try one or two. So.
Is that technology of the access hardwired or Wi-Fi? Jim, you want to describe the technology there?
Well, the technology is in a room that's about half the size. So when you guys are asking if audience can come, I mean, I can't answer that, but their meeting room is not to hold audience members. Their meeting room is a big table, and their owl it looked very nice, it looked very cool. So beyond that, I don't know.
They don't know what the owl is.
The owl is a recording device that is a camera, a speaker, and a microphone. And
Directional.
Yeah, so just this little box lights up when the end starts to speak, you start to speak and it's gonna kind of. Yeah. Now they may have the opportunity to set up the audience. They have other space, and I know some of their equipment is portable. They're operating with their new workspace, and so they're trying to, increase their own revenues by offering, different opportunities for businesses or whatever.
would we have to pay to use their space?
I would hope that maybe we could sample their space first and see if it meets our needs. But I would, if we ended up doing it long term, that would certainly be something that we would need to weigh out for after our technology guy tells you what we need to do.
Yeah, because we have 5 boards, or whatever. Yeah.
Then we have a budget coming up that we're gonna get hearings for, this isn't gonna change overnight, I know that, but we're.
I mean, I'm not pro or against it, I'm just asking questions.
I think it's a good opportunity to explore now as we start to go into our own budget, considerations for 20.
Well, I know the owl is $1,000 to buy it. I looked at it on their website, so we can budget for that for next,
Or spring for it
Yeah, we can
more
spray it.
immediately.
or do whatever you guys want to do.
Upgrades.
If that was.
Yeah.
if-
Like I said, the other question is the echo, and, we have our system in here that we're trying to upgrade, and that's loud, and so the door's actually shut because it's so loud. And so that's another thing, we have to look at the acoustics because, and the microphones, and so I think that's just the start as $1,000 to get the technology, but then there may be some other things.
Correct. In the meantime, we're not providing a service to our public if they want to. And if you go back and you try to listen to that, if they need it with attention, you try to have as a part of it, and then you listen back to it, and it's horrible. So,
And I've seen Jen get frustrated many times, saying, I can't even understand this.
Well, the last business promotion meeting was extremely extra difficult because I tried to change some settings and then I wasn't there. Yes, that one is completely, yes. The other ones, yes, it's hard to hear, and I mean, that's why the guy's coming up on Thursday.
So, is there, I mean, I'd be in favor of going ahead, getting the feedback from the tech guy on Thursday and figuring out what those costs look like, how quickly can they be implemented, making a decision at our next meeting. And until then, we just remember to speak up.
Try that equipment out first before we, but they're all over there may not help us with our echo situation here.
Right.
I think that's my concern.
Yeah.
Because what if we brought that in, and that becomes even more degrading? So.
Sure, so
Would we
30
be
day,
able to borrow it, and bring it over here?
30-day trial.
Well, I think maybe that's why we need to hear that from that guy. We can get him to bring some things in and do some testing and, so
I'm talking about the owl, could we borrow it from the schoolhouse and,
I don't think they're gonna let us.
it's kind of wired into this.
oh, so it's not super portable? Okay.
Well, we would have to ask them, I mean, to find out before we just answer for them, yeah.
Yes, we will be prepared next meeting to discuss our options.
Okay. All right, anybody have anything else?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
It's been moved and
Now we're never
seconded. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
I.
Any opposed? It is 7:52 PM. Thank you so much.